Nobody knows how.
Two, one.
Okay, so I'm gonna start. I know it's a little bit earlier than we normally start, but my children hate sleep, and so nobody in my house has slept all night, and so there's gonna be a lot of screaming happening outside. We're just gonna try and power through. So if you hear the screaming, just ignore it, okay? Okay, so we're gonna kick it off. Part 2 of our series. It's a 4-week series. So just a reminder that this is the theme verse from Deuteronomy 6. So last week we talked about your relationship with God, and this whole series is about falling in love with Him and your relationship with Him. Thank you. Thank you.
It's not boring.
Thank you. Sorry, my husband was just bringing me a coffee. So last week, in week 1, we talked about the initial pursuit. So how he's trying to get you to notice him, how he's trying to, quote unquote, get you introduced to each other, starting a conversation. We left the week off with a challenge to plan dates with him and to look for him and look for the ways that he's trying to show you that he's there, and look for the ways where he's trying to show you that he loves you, and try and be more aware of his efforts, because it's a sad, sad day when he's trying to get you to notice him and you're too busy with something else. So that was sort of the initial pursuit and sort of the meet and greet and how you start. Okay, so now we're going to pick it up this week with the assumption that you're in a relationship. Okay, and you know, relationships are great and they're exciting, but there's also a lot of hard work that goes into relationships. So today we're going to talk about what it means to actually be in a relationship with him and what that looks like. And then we're going to follow along St. Peter's journey with him as well, right? So this is where we were last week. We're kind of going through the references to St. Peter chronologically. So this is where we're going to pick it off today. Okay, so the last thing we talked about was Christ naming him Peter instead of Simon. And then we're going to pick it up today from, anyways, this is where we're going to go. So let's start with the first reference. So normally in OnRoute, I would get someone to read. So can I get someone to read this one as well? Can you guys unmute yourself in Google Meet or whatever this is? Yes, Stephen's saying yes. Okay, so someone, go ahead, jump in. Anyone?
I'll do it. And he permitted no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. Then he came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and saw a tumult and those who wept and wailed loudly. When he came in, he said to them, "Why make this commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping." Would you like me to continue?
Yes.
And they ridiculed him. But when he had put them all outside, he took the father and the mother of the child and those who were with him and entered where the child was lying. Then he took the child by the hand and said to her, "Talitha Kumi," which is translated, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." Immediately the girl arose and walked, for she was 12 years of age, and they were overcome with great amazement. But he commanded them strictly that no one should know it, and said that something should be given her to eat.
Awesome. So I put at the bottom there that this same story is also in Luke 8 and Matthew 9. But I just picked one for us to go through in terms of the wording. But this story is repeated in all of the Gospels. So let's talk about what actually happened here, okay? So Peter's version of this, if you look at where I highlighted, and it says he permitted no one to follow him except Peter. And even when he went into the house of the child who had died, he only permitted the parents of the child and those who were with him. So Peter, James, John, and the parents of the children. What does this tell you? What does this tell you about their relationship? Peter's feeling accepted. He's feeling like he's part of this exclusive circle. He's feeling on the inside. He's feeling favored. He's feeling noticed. Amazing things are happening before his eyes. And he's the only person, or one of very few people, that are allowed to see this, that are allowed to come into the inner circle and watch what's happening. Okay. That is a relationship. That is an exclusive relationship. If you want to put that in terms of, relationship terms, and people are making fun of me about this series because they're saying you're just trying to do relationship goals in a different way. Maybe, okay, I love relationship goals. But if we put this in the context of a relationship, this is an exclusive relationship. You're on the inside. You know that somebody is prioritizing you. Somebody is letting you in to a part of their life or a part of their heart that nobody else has access to. And Peter is feeling that. So last week, they were just getting introduced and they were getting noticed. And this week, Peter's on the inside, right? And who doesn't love to be loved, right? Like, that's a great thing. And Peter is happy about this because, like I said, who doesn't love to be loved? And what's Christ doing here? Okay, he's committing to us. And like I said last week, the question, this whole series, we're not going to talk about whether he loves you, because that is the assumption at the beginning of the series. The question is, can you see that? Can you perceive that? And can you recognize that? So in this inner circle, okay, Christ is committing. Okay, this is like his equivalent of a public display, right? Like when people change their status on Facebook to in a relationship, or whatever, post things on Instagram, or make it known that they are now attached to this person. That's what he's doing, because there are crowds of people that are following him, but he's saying, no, only you, and you can come with me, because that's his inner circle. Okay, that is his commitment. Okay, what is our version of this? Okay, here Christ commits to Peter. Peter is feeling the exclusivity. He's feeling the acceptance. What is our equivalent? Okay, always the question that comes to my mind is your faith a part of your life, or is it your life? And there's a very big difference. If you have committed to your faith, okay, like let's say me, okay, I am a pharmacist, or whatever I am, okay? Am I a Christian who's also a pharmacist, or am I a pharmacist who's also a Christian on the side? Do you see the difference? And that's the difference in terms of this commitment here, okay? Are you somebody who is a Christian and, or are you, whatever, but also a Christian on the side? Because he's committed to us, okay? In this analogy with Peter, he has shown the world that Peter's on the inside, and he's done that to us. But the question is, can we do that back? Can we decide that we're in a relationship, change the Facebook status, post the pictures on Instagram, do all of that to commit to him publicly and wholeheartedly, right? Like, I remember, so when I'm at work, I like to compartmentalize my life, okay? When I'm at work, I like to be at work, and I'm focused on work, and I don't think about anything else. And then when I'm home, I am a mom until 7 p.m. My kids go to bed at 7 p.m., and then I'm a wife until 10 p.m. And I am like a type A, and I operate in boxes, okay? And when I got married, my husband and I worked in the same hospital system, right? Which, I mean, it was good, but it was a little bit of a struggle, because all of a sudden I was a resident at the time. So I was Sarah, the resident, but then there was this other world that was, oh, that's Rami's wife. Good and bad, okay? Good because yes, I'm married, it's very exciting and all that stuff, but also I like to compartmentalize my life, right? I don't like people to treat me any differently because they know who my husband is, or treat me any differently because X, Y, and Z. What I'm asking you to do here is the opposite, is to not compartmentalize your life, because he should be a part of everything. Right? When I'm talking about my marriage, I wear a wedding ring, whether I'm at work, whether I'm doing something social, wherever I am, I'm still married, right? I am wife and everything else. This is the same thing. You are his and you bring him into everything that you're doing. That's the commitment that he's asking you to reciprocate, because he's already done that. Does that make sense? Okay, I'll get someone to read the next reference for me. Anybody at all? Any takers? I feel like I'm teaching high school again. Any takers? Okay, let me scroll through the list and see if there's any names that I recognize that I can call out.
Just call out anybody, sir.
Okay. Mark. Let me see how. If that's who I think it is, because I don't see a picture. This works a lot better in person when I can call somebody out.
I will just read.
Thank you.
Immediately, Jesus made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he sent the multitudes away. And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Now when evening came, he was alone there, but the boat was now in the middle of the sea, tossed by the waves, for the wind was contrary. Now on the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, "It is a ghost." And they cried out for fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid." And Peter answered him and said, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." So he said, "Come." And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw that the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus stretched out his hands and caught him, and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased.
Okay. I love this passage because I feel like Peter gets a bad rap here. And I just want to, disclaimer that, remember I told you guys, Elijah and Peter, my old and my new, those are probably my two favorite characters, okay? Partly because they have a similar personality, partly because there's a lot of sass, but also partly because I identify with them, okay? And in this passage, Peter gets a lot of hassle, okay? People take this passage, they read it at surface level, and they say, "Oh, Peter doubted, and Peter didn't believe, and, okay? But I want to strip this down to what actually happened, okay? From Peter's perspective, Peter believes in him, right? Peter is committing to him. If you look, he says, "If it's you, command me to come to you on the water." I can't see how far away you are, and I can't see that that's you. But if it's you, I know it's you because I know that you can do great things. I know that you can get me to walk on water if it's you. I can't see you, and I can't confirm that it's you because you're too far away. But if it's you, I know what you're capable of. And if it's you, I know that you can do something miraculous. He doesn't not believe in him. He doesn't know that it is him. But if it is him, he believes. He very much believes. And when Christ said, "Come," Peter went. He didn't hesitate. He didn't pause. There's a storm. It says the wind is boisterous or whatever. And it's probably not a calm sight. But Christ said, "Come." And Peter came down out of the boat and walked on the water to go to Jesus. Yeah, okay, he's human. I'm defending him now. He's human, and he got anxious, and he looked down, and then he's whatever. But even when he got anxious, he cried out saying, "Lord, save me." He believes. He believes that Christ can get him to walk on water. He is obedient, and when things are not going his way because of his own screw up, he believes that Christ can save him. The first passage was Christ's public display, his equivalent of his Facebook status change or his Instagram, whatever, saying that he's committed to Peter. This is Peter committing to him. Peter believes in him. Peter believes that he can do that. And now that they have a relationship, Peter can ask him, right? Peter can ask him to do these crazy things. It's analogy, okay? When my husband and I started dating, I was very not about paying, and I didn't want him to pay for me and all that kind of stuff, whatever. I have my own history and my own baggage about that, but I was not okay with that, okay? And it was a big fight for a very long time about who's going to pay him, blah, 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 and I would never be okay with it, and we'd have to split it and whatever. It was just silly and obnoxious, okay? And then fast forward to like a few years into marriage, okay? Fast forward to like now, okay? Like we'll be somewhere at church and I'll just go and be like, babe, give me your wallet, and I'll open it and find whatever I need so that I can go pay for whatever I need. The difference is that now that I have a deeper relationship with my husband, I know what I can ask. I'm like closer to him, and I understand him, and I understand his motives and his perspective, and I can ask these things. This is Peter, okay? Peter believes in him. They're in a relationship. He knows, I wouldn't say he knows what Christ is capable of, but he has a better idea, okay, of who he is, and he can ask him that. He can tell him, okay, if it's you, show me that it's you, because I'll walk on water if it's you. And if he's drowning, he can ask him to save him, because now they have a relationship. Now that relationship is deeper. They know each other better, and he can ask that stuff. And so here, Peter is actually committing. Like, I know he gets a bad rap, but if you break down what he actually said, in many, many ways, he's telling him, like, I believe in you. I do. And what's Christ's response to that? Don't doubt how much I love you. Okay? Oh, you have little faith. Why did you doubt? It sounds harsh, but what he's saying is, don't doubt how much I love you. Like, we are together. Okay? We are. And I'm with you, and I'm not leaving you, and I'm not going anywhere. And I have you. I have your back. Okay? If you take that and you put it into like an analogy, okay? Think about in a relationship, okay? There is a point in time where there needs to be reassurance of how each person feels. There has to be, okay? Like you go from the like casual, 5 dates. For those of you who've been to my goals talks, like I have a thing about, the 5-date rule before you make or break, like you call it or you don't. There needs to be a point where you discuss whether you're in a relationship or you're not. Whether you're casually seeing each other or you're pursuing a relationship. Even after you get into a relationship, there needs to be a point where you reassure each other, right? And one of the things that men are called to do is to provide emotional security and to reassure each other that you're on the same page, that you're progressing in the right direction, that you each have feelings for each other that are equal and opposite, right? Like that's a normal relationship. That's what happens, okay? What's the difference? What's the difference, okay? When you need reassurance that he's there, ask him. Ask him. Peter did it, okay? And it worked. Ask him. It's okay for you to ask him to remind you that he loves you. In any relationship, okay, any relationship, people need reassurance all the time. Why is this any different? Why are we expecting ourselves to be like completely immune to the insecurities that are going to come? The difference is you're going to have those insecurities, but what are you going to do about them? In a normal, like male-female relationship, what makes a successful relationship is your ability to communicate that to each other. Your ability to tell the person that you're with, listen, I'm feeling this way, like, let's talk about it. What's the difference? If you want to have a successful relationship with him that is deep and that is lasting and that is the real deal, what's the difference? He's not expecting you to not be insecure. He's not expecting you to have it all together. On the contrary, he knows better than anybody how little you have it together. So what's the difference? Like, communication is key. He wants you to be vulnerable with him. He wants that because that is a sign that you guys are in a relationship. That is a sign that you are in his heart and he is in yours. When you can be vulnerable with somebody. You're not vulnerable with somebody on the first date. You're vulnerable with somebody when you're deep into a relationship. What's the difference? If you need reassurance, ask him. If you need to see that he loves you in whatever way, ask him. If you need reassurance that you are still in communion with each other, ask him. Okay? Like, think about how many relationships where, one person is getting antsy because the other person doesn't want to commit. Or the other person is like hiding it from their parents and doesn't want to tell their parents. Okay, if you strip that down to its core, it's that they need reassurance that this person is in it. This is the same thing. Like the example that always comes to my mind is my daughter recently has this thing in her mind where like she's understanding that she could get in trouble and things like that. And so she gets in trouble. And after we've had our talk and everything's done, her question is always, Do you still love me when I hit Toby? She's very rough with her brother. Yeah, I do. Do you still love me when I am in a timeout? Do you still love me? And that question is so heartbreaking. Like it breaks my heart so much when she asks me these questions. But it's the same thing. And when she asks me, I'm like overly like, oh, of course I love you, and I'm never gonna stop loving you, and you're my girl, and you're always gonna be my baby. And I'm like quick to reassure her because I never, ever, ever want her to doubt that no matter what happens, I love her. This is me and my daughter. Now imagine how badly he wants to reassure you. Like the love that I have for my daughter cannot possibly, by definition, be a fraction of what he has. And my heart is broken when she asks me those questions, and I'm like falling all over myself to provide the most reassurance I possibly can so that she knows how much I love her. Okay? Imagine what he's trying to do for you. Imagine. And you needing to ask him is not wrong. It's not wrong. We are human. He knows we're human. We get insecure. He knows that. He knows that. So when you need reassurance, ask him. Okay? And don't get me wrong. This is not easy. Okay? Again, if you put in your mind the context of a male-female relationship, it is not easy to be vulnerable with somebody. It is not easy to admit your insecurities and admit that you need reassurance about an insecurity. That's not easy. Being vulnerable with somebody is not easy, but that's part of the reason why relationships are hard work. And if you're invested in the relationship, you're invested in the success of a relationship, you'll do it. So how much more should we be doing this with him? Like, I'm using such a superficial example of a male-female relationship, but this is something that's very close to my heart. And like, this is just a fraction of the magnitude for him, right? Like it's a fraction, like my wanting to reassure my daughter or my needing reassurance in a relationship, like, and my wanting to provide that reassurance, or my husband, for example, wanting to provide that reassurance is a fraction of how much he wants to do the same thing, because it's a fraction of how much he loves us, right? So if you ask, if when you have these insecurities or these doubts or these questions, you go to him, like he is waiting for you. He's waiting for the opportunity to show you how much he loves you. He's waiting. Like sometimes we have this, I don't know where it came from, this idea of him like waiting for you to make mistakes and waiting for you to mess up so that he can smite you with like, weeping and gnashing of teeth. And I don't know where we got that. And we did a series like, a long time ago on OnRoute about breaking those preconceived notions and trying to figure out where they came from. This is along those same lines. That's not what he's waiting for. He's actually waiting for the opposite. He's waiting for the day that he can show you that he loves you. He's waiting for like the way, like the opportunity to just like kill you with love and to like shower you with love and to shower you with reassurance. That's what he's waiting for. But the first step to that is that you have to ask him. It seems very simple, but it's a very difficult thing to do. But all he's waiting for is for you to just ask him. Like when you're in a relationship and it's going somewhere, if you need reassurance, all you have to do is ask. Like if I'm not feeling it from my husband, all I have to do is ask. He can't read my mind, okay? Like, and once I ask, he's happy to do it. But you gotta ask. Why is it any different? Okay, next example. You get someone to read. It's a little bit of a struggle today getting people to read.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
When Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Who do men say that I, the Son of Man, am?" So they said, "Some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, and others Jeremiah or one of the prophets." He said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. And I also say to you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it. And I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven.
So what happened here? Okay. We just talked about how he is waiting for the opportunity to show you that he loves you, right? He's waiting for it. Like, he just can't wait for a time where he can just show you and tell you, like, all the ways that he loves you. Okay. And sometimes that might be contrary to, whatever impression of him we were raised in. But, we have a whole series on disproving that. Okay. And showing you how loved you actually are. But that's not the question in this series. Okay. In this series, the question is your feelings to him. We know how he feels about us. We're going to assume that we all understand how he feels about us. Okay. Now the question is how you feel about him. But just to solidify that point, okay, that he is waiting to show you his love, okay? Take this example here of Peter. At this point, they're in a relationship, okay? At this point, they know each other. They are like part of each other's inner circles, okay? They have a relationship with each other. And Christ asks him, "Who do you say that I am?" And Peter affirms what he believes to be true, okay? In the previous example where Peter gets a bad rap, you kind of have to dig deep for whether he believes, right? At surface, it doesn't seem like it and he gets a bad rap, but when you dig deep, you can see that in his actions and in his words, he does actually believe. Now, Peter is spelling it out, okay? Christ asks him, "Who do you say that I am?" And Peter says, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Like, I believe. I believe in everything you are. I believe in everything you tell me. I believe. This is his, proclamation of faith, okay? And what is the answer? Like, "Blessed are you, I will build my church on you, you are the rock, and I will give you the keys to the kingdom, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Like just over and over and over and over, like positive, like positive reinforcement, over and over. Peter said one line, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And he's answered with a paragraph of blessings, like a paragraph of Christ's love for him. He's answered with a paragraph. Like, if you ever doubted that you just need to ask, here it is. One line versus a paragraph of all the ways Christ wants to bless him. All the ways. Why? Because now it's reciprocated. I wouldn't say equal and opposite, okay? Because I don't think there will ever be a day where I can love him a fraction of the way he loves me. But in as much as we can, in our human boxes, it's reciprocated. And just that, proclamation of reciprocity prompts this, outpouring of love from him. Prompts this, Peter's, up here now. Like, Peter is the rock, and on Peter the church will be built, and the keys to the kingdom. And, Peter is up there. Why? Why? A loving relationship is a two-way street, okay? From when we are very young, we are always told, pray, glorify, worship, magnify him. Why? Why? Because we love him. These are not empty actions. These are not empty instructions that the church is trying to give you to fill your time, okay? This is the manifestation of a relationship, okay? He shows us, we know, okay? We know the miracles he does for us. We know the magnitude of ways that he shows his love for us. But what do you do? What do you do to show him? Okay? Do we fear him? Sure. Everybody fears him. When you're a kid, that's the first thing you're taught. Like Baba Yeshua Hayazal and all that stuff. And I don't agree with that, okay? But that's the first thing we're taught is fear. But how do you show him that you love him? How do you show him? Why do we praise? Why do we glorify? Why do we have a whole agbeya about his praises? Why? Because this is how we show him. This is how we show him. This is like the equivalent of a guy-girl relationship, and one of the person says, "I love you." And the other person says, "Thanks." What is that? That's right there. That interaction is a make or break right there. Okay? Because either you're in it and you're on the same page or you're not. This is our "I love you too." That's what it is. And if you can't do that, you have a serious problem. Are you not committed? Do you not understand his love for you? What is it? What is holding you back from being able to say, "I love you too"? What is it? because you have to be able to do that. In order for this relationship to move forward, you have to be able to do that. When my husband said that to me, if I didn't say it back, I don't think we'd be married at this point, right? Like, a relationship is two-sided. It's not one-sided. And the reason we worship and we glorify and we praise and we magnify is because this is our version of, I love you too. Like, if you look at Psalm 22, verse 3, you are wholly enthroned on the praises of Israel. Like, what this is saying is that his throne is built on the praises of his people, okay? Like, just take that in for a second. His throne is built on the praises of his people. If you can't do this, you're in trouble. If you need him to dwell with you, okay? If you need him to be with you, this is the way to do it. Like, he understands our need for his affirmation. He understands. Sorry, one second. Sorry, guys, my family understands our need for affirmation and for reminders of love and for all of that. He gets that, okay? Because he has designed relationships knowing what we need, right? Like, I'm a big fan of, like, the concept that he has designed the way relationships work so that, because we're supposed to complement each other, right? And the reason why you need this and he needs this, or he needs this and she needs this, is because those needs complement each other, okay? He's designed that. There is nobody who understands that better than him, okay? And because he understands that, he does everything he can. You say one line and he responds with a paragraph, okay? Like, Peter, like one thing, and Peter is now the rock and the keys to the kingdom, and he gets that, okay? The question is, do you get that? Okay, you get it in an earthly relationship between a guy and a girl, and you know, if the guy says I love you and the girl says thanks, everybody's like, oh, that's harsh, and you get that there. But for some reason, it doesn't translate into our relationship with him. Relationships are hard work. And part of the reason why they're hard is because in a relationship, it is your job to make sure that that person knows how you feel. And if they don't know, maybe you're not doing enough. It's your job. And like, in goals, we always come down hard on the guys and say, it's your job to provide emotional security. This is not any different, okay? Yeah, he knows, okay? Yeah, I know that he knows, okay? But are you putting effort into showing him? Are you doing that? Okay? My husband can tell me he loves me, but he also has to show me, right? Like, his actions also have to echo that. Because if they don't, then they're empty words. It is your job in your relationship with him to show him that you love him. Are you pulling your weight? Because he's showing you, right? Like I said, this is not the topic of this series. We know that he loves us, but are you showing him that you love him? Peter, okay, had it easy, okay? Peter walked on water to show him that he believes, okay? Peter left everything and followed him to show that he believes. He was right there, okay? What are you doing? What are you doing? Okay? You want this relationship to go places. You want this relationship to get deeper. What are you doing to tell him and to show him that you love him? Sometimes, okay, we like to, I don't know what the nice way to say this is. We like to pick and choose the parts of the church rites and traditions that we like, right? So like when I was growing up, Ekbea was super popular, not so popular anymore, okay? My challenge to you is to figure out why that was once important, okay? I think it still is, okay? Depends on who you ask, okay? But why did the church put that in place? Why, okay? The people that make fun of me for this series are going to roll their eyes right now because we're going to talk about love languages. But what we're trying to do here is we're going to try to find an applicable way for you to show him that you love him. And my challenge to you here is not to pick one, okay? It's to do them all. So the 5 love languages, I don't know if you guys are familiar, okay? The first one is words of affirmation. So what that means is So for anybody who doesn't know what the love languages are, there's like this quiz that you can do online or in a book or whatever if you're in a relationship. And based on your score, it tells you how you best perceive the other person's love, right? So for example, when my husband and I started dating, we realized that I'm showing him love in the way that I receive love, but that's not how he perceives it. So his love language was physical touch. My love language was gifts. Give me gifts, okay? And I'm getting him stuff because I'm trying to show him how I feel about him, and he's trying to hold my hand. Like, it doesn't mean that the efforts are not there, but they're not being perceived. So when you do this quiz, it gives you insight into your own and into the other person's efforts, okay? That's sort of the baseline for love languages. So one of them is words of affirmation, right? You have to hear it from the person a lot, okay? What is the equivalent of that in our relationship with him? We just talked about prayer and praise and like worship and magnifying him. For me, the most logical example to that is Yurik Beya, right? Like it's a whole book dedicated to regularly talking to him and telling him that you love him all day. It's a whole book. And the words are written for you. If you don't have them and you don't know what to say, the words are written for you, okay? Like Beya is not your thing. I would challenge you to make it your thing, but let's say it's not, okay? Worship. All the words are about you telling him that you love him. Let's say you don't need somebody else's words. You want to write your own. Fine. Prayer. But the love language here is words of affirmation and telling him that you love him, okay? Another of the love languages is acts of service, okay? This, for me, is huge in my relationship with God. Like, again, your relationship with him will be individual. For me, this is huge, okay? And it took a long time for me to understand the motivation behind service. I don't serve the people that I'm serving, okay? Like, let's say we call this my service right now. If I'm being perfectly transparent, I don't know you guys. I'm not serving you. Like, I'm happy that you're here and that's fine. Like, if there was 2 people here or 100 people here, like, it doesn't matter to me because I'm not serving you, okay? I'm here as my kids are screaming like banshees outside because I love him and I'm serving him. And that distinction is huge because that distinction is what prevents people from getting discouraged and from quitting service and blah, blah, blah. Because at the end of the day, you're not seeking fulfillment or you're not seeking acceptance from the people that you're serving, okay? It's all about him and nobody else. So however this goes, good or bad, it doesn't matter because I'm doing it for him, okay? It's the same thing like in a relationship. I'm exhausted, okay? My children hate sleep. Okay, but this morning my husband was exhausted, so I got up early with my children and I took them downstairs, whatever, so he could sleep a little bit longer. Act of service, okay? I'm not like, I love my kids and I want to spend more time with them, but I also love my sleep. My husband is tired. It's the same thing. When you do acts of service, that is another way for you to show him that you love him. Are you pulling your weight? Okay, another one is gifts. That's mine, okay? Anybody's interested? My love language was gifts. Is, not was, is, okay? What are your gifts? Okay. Is it your time? Is it tithing? Is it like in the Old Testament, the equivalent is the sacrifices that they made? Like, just be a little personal with you guys right now. I'm still working 100 more hours than I normally work. Okay. And I feel like I don't spend enough time with my kids. Okay. Like I am looking forward to the weekend, like with a new zeal, because I don't feel like I spend enough time with my kids because everybody's at home with their kids and I'm working double the hours that I normally work because of all the stuff that's happening, okay? My sacrifice right now is this. Like, this is my time with my kids. This is my weekend. This is all I get with them. But I love him too. More, right? Quality time. We talked about this last week. Doing your quiet time, going on dates, whatever your quality time is. And the last one is physical touch. If you are like my husband and you need something tangible that will ground you to the relationship, that's communion. Like, I mean, maybe a bad time for me to bring this up right now because we're in the middle of a pandemic. However, okay, sorry to put you on the spot, Abuna, they did announce this morning that if you need communion, to reach out to somebody because they can sort of figure it out. I don't know what they're going to do. I haven't talked to them about this, but something, okay? But the point is, in normal times, okay, when you need that physical reassurance, when you need that physical something, that's the sacraments. That's what they are. They are the physical link that we have between us and them. But the question is, are you pulling your weight? Are you trying with words of affirmation? Are you trying with service? Are you trying to make that physical connection? Or are you sleeping in on a Sunday morning? Are you doing your part? Are you pulling your weight? Okay, let's get somebody else to read. Anybody at all?
I'll do it. When Jesus knew in himself that his disciples complained about this, he said to them, "Does this offend you? What then if you should see the Son of Man ascend where he was before? It is the Spirit who gives life, the flesh profits nothing. The words that I speak to you are spirit, and they are life. But there are some of you who do not believe." For Jesus knew from the beginning who they were who did not believe and who would betray him. And he said, "Therefore I have said to you that no one can come to me unless it has been granted to him by my Father." From that time, many of his disciples went back and walked with him no more. Then Jesus said to the 12, "Do you also want to go away?" But Simon Peter answered him, "Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. Also, we have come to believe and know that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God."
So what happened here? Okay, we know how Peter feels. I just want to say also, maybe part of the reason why I resonate with Peter so much is because he's like the spokesperson, right? Like, I'm sure he's not giving anybody a chance to jump in. He's always the person who's jumping in and answering. Anyways, so he says something that is not received well, Christ, okay? He says something that people have difficulty accepting, okay? And from that point on, he lost a big chunk of his following, okay? And he says to the 12, "Are you also out?" And Peter says, "Of course not. Like, we're in, okay? Like, we have left all and follow you, okay? Like, we are in. Why would we go anywhere else when you are everything, okay?" And there's another verse somewhere else, like I'll encourage you to read it, is, we'll talk about it a little bit next week because we're going to talk a little bit more about Peter's, like, sass and the things that he said that probably could have been worded differently. But there's another one where he says, "We have left all and follow you," okay? And that's the truth, right? That's what they did. Like, Peter's married, okay? The only time his wife is referenced is when Christ went and healed her mother, right? Like, they literally have left everything and followed him, okay? They have made a commitment to him wholeheartedly. They have left everything. They have dropped their lives and followed him. Is your faith a part of your life, or is your faith your life? Is your relationship with him a sidebar, or is it the main event? And like, I understand the difficulty of what I'm asking. I understand, okay? Because like I said, I am a compartmentalized person, okay? Like, I leave the house at 6:30 in the morning. From 6:30 until I get home, I am at work, okay? And then, from that time I get home to 7 o'clock, I am mom. And on the weekends, I'm mom. And then 7 until I go to bed, I'm wife. Like, I get it, okay? I understand. But how do you expect this relationship to go if you put him in a box, okay? I'll tell you, again, I'm being a little bit personal here. When my husband and I were dating, okay, we've been dating for like long enough, but we dated in a different time than now, right? Back then, when you date, you don't tell anybody and everything is DL and people only find out that you're dating when you get engaged, right? Like, that was how we dated, okay? And there was one time where, like, it had been long enough that, like, you know, we could probably, come out or whatever you want to call it, okay? And to the point where, like, enough people knew that I was invited to one of his best friend's weddings, okay? And I was still the girlfriend, so it's not like I was sitting with him, because we have to be quiet about it, okay? But, like, enough people knew, and it was a smallish wedding, so, like, it was like an inner circle. And my husband, in his effort to protect me, because at the time we had this mentality that, like, you have to protect reputations, blah, blah, whatever, okay? It's all outdated now, okay? In his effort to protect me, okay, he never said one word to me the whole night. It's like we didn't even know each other. And if I'd walk this way, he'd walk this way. Like, it was like we were like magnets, like opposites, just like bouncing off each other, okay? And as the night progressed, I don't know anybody there. I am his plus one. I don't know anybody there. This is his world. And as the night progressed, it became more and more difficult for me to, like, game face it. Like, I'm just getting annoyed, okay? Because I feel like he's put me in a box. Okay, I feel like he's not secure enough in where this relationship is going for him to have a conversation with me in public. Okay, I'm not bitter about this anymore, like 10 years later. Okay, but it was a very difficult event, and it was something that was like a difficult conversation afterwards, and we had a big fight about it and blah blah blah, because I felt like he put me in this hidden box even among the people who knew about it. Okay, and it was this like, you know, dirty little secret. Are we doing that? I hope not. Like, I hope not. Like, I hope that wherever I go, that the first thing people know about me is that I'm Christian. I hope. I don't know, but I hope. But the question is, am I putting enough effort into making sure that I'm not? I haven't left everything. I have a job, I have kids, I have a house, I have a whatever, okay? In my, like, capacity, am I doing everything I can to have left all and followed him? Am I doing this? Am I committing to him wholeheartedly? Is everything that I do for him and with him and through him and because of him and in him, is he my motivation for everything? Is he weighed in everything that I do, everything that I say? Like, every time I get annoyed about somebody at work, is he there? Like, is he like making the decision about what to say or what not to say? Like, every time my kids wake up at night, okay? Like, is he there? I don't know. Should he be? Yeah. And if we're doing this the right way, if we're committing, then yeah, he should be. Like I would not be married to my husband if that, like, the way I felt that day continued. If I always felt like he put me in a box. If his colleagues at work right now didn't know that he was married. Like, I'm not ashamed of him. But am I acting that way? Am I making him a priority? I don't know. If you were in a relationship with a guy and a girl, I'm thinking back to my own life. If I was in a relationship right now with somebody, if I made Rami feel the way I probably make him feel, if I compartmentalize Rami the same way I compartmentalize him, Rami should not be married to me. And that's like the very least, that's the very least way that I could make that analogy, because my relationship with Rami should be nothing but a fraction of what my relationship with him is. But, like, you know, in layman's terms, if I compartmentalized him the same amount, we would not be married. So then what am I doing? What am I doing? Am I pulling my weight in this relationship? I'm not. This is the theme verse because this verse reflects, like, the magnitude of where it should be in your mind, in your life, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And then, like, if you look, teach them to your children. Talk to them when you sit in your house, like when you're in your social circles. That should be what you talk about. When you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up, you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Like, this is the theme verse because this reflects what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, if we're pulling our weight in the relationship, this is what we're supposed to be doing. We talk about this, like, romantic love, that it's like all consuming and this and that. When in reality, what we do with him is not even a fraction. Relationships are hard work. So is this. This is a relationship. I just want to talk about quickly, sorry, I know I'm over time, this concept of breaks. Okay, so last week when we talked about, you know, how we're going to do this, okay, and what's the plan, we talked about what's the plan stand. This is a direct reference to my daughter because this is what she always asks me, okay? And we talked about select your challenge, how you're going to do it, how wholeheartedly you're going to approach it, and no breaks, okay? I had a conversation with somebody this week about last week's session, and what they were telling me is that sometimes it's hard to stay focused, like, when you're in it. Okay, and the analogy that they drew, which I very much appreciated, and shout out to her because this is not my idea, was, let's say you're on a date with somebody that you don't really know. If there's no activity or there's no, like, interactive something, it's hard to make conversation, right? Like, it's hard to stay engaged. Like, the conversation dies and, like, it gets awkward, and that's like a normal, like, guy-girl relationship. right? And if we're making these analogies and asking what's the difference, like think of the diversity of dates in a normal relationship, right? Like if my husband, when we were dating, took me to the same thing over and over again, every day, we went to Shoeless Joe's and had dinner. That's what we did a lot. Or Swiss Chalet every day and had dinner. You'd get sick of it, right? Like it would be hard to be excited about it. It would be hard to like, I don't want to say keep the spark alive because it's reasonably new, but yeah, like it would be hard to be excited. So if we introduce that element of diversity and change in our normal human relationships, what's the difference? Like if we know that as human beings who are limited, that have like a defined capacity, that we need variety and we need to be doing different things and we need to be having different conversations, why would we not then apply that to our relationship with him? If after 6 years of praying the Agbeya every day, okay, I need to change it up a little bit. Okay. And like don't get me wrong, okay? The type of dates that you're going on with him are necessary. And if you think about a guy-girl relationship, sometimes in a relationship you need to sit down and have a conversation, and that's sufficient. Sometimes you need to be doing something very spontaneous and very fun, and that's necessary. And sometimes you can just, my husband and I used to do this all the time, we just study side by side. We're not even talking to each other, but we're just beside each other and we're studying, and that's necessary too. So why do we not approach our relationship with him with the same level of creativity? It's not at all a reflection of him, right? Like he doesn't need this, okay? This whole series is about us and what we need to stay with him and to commit to him and to stay focused. And if we know that these are our shortcomings and this is what we need, why wouldn't we address that? Why wouldn't we do something about it, right? Like we talked about the different love languages and the different ways that you show him, right? Like how you love him, and that's great, but there may need to be different ways that you focus on him. Like what I'm challenging you guys to do is to think outside the box, right? Are there things that you can do with him that keep your focus on him, that are outside of your, tried, tested, and true? I'm not discounting the necessity of the tried, tested, and true. And when things are bad, I revert right back to the tried, tested, and true because I need what works and where I've seen him and where I've heard him and where I know he is, okay? But in the meantime, why are we not as creative as we are with a normal relationship, right? Like, okay, I'm going to disclaimer here, okay? For those of you who know me, I am not like an artsy, that's not me, okay? Like I'm a very like science and my mind doesn't comprehend that kind of stuff, okay? But I don't discount that works for some people, okay? And if that works for you, do it, okay? Like I have friends who like in his presence love to paint. Okay, that's not me. I'm not artsy, but if that works for you, do it, okay? I have friends who like to go outside in nature and they see God's glory in like that kind of stuff. Again, not me, but if it works, do it. The point here is to think outside the box, right? Like the same way in a relationship, you put effort into keeping it interesting and doing things differently. Why do we not do the same thing with him? If you need something to change it up and to keep it, different, then figure it out. Like take that effort and put it into finding something else that you can do with him, that is about him and for him and through him, that you can do together, that you can be in his presence and you can feel him and you can talk to him and you can know him while you're doing that, whatever, right? Like this is what I'm trying to tell you is that the effort has to be there. And if your same routine is not working, then you have to change it up and you have to figure it out because that's your job. Okay, he has pulled his weight and more. The question is, are you doing the same thing? Okay, 12:30, 3-0. I'm not actually late, but I will open it up for questions, criticisms, concerns. I can see stuff going in the chat, but I haven't read it yet. Oh, nothing to do with me. Great. Okay, any questions, criticisms, concerns, issues, blasphemies, heresies that I spoke?
Hey, Sarah. Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for this. That was lovely. I just had a question. When you're dating and trying to get to know the person a lot more, and church and service is something important to you, it's a part of your life. But you're like, you want to make sure that the person you're dating like is in the same branch as you, has the same like values in terms of like God, church, and service. How do you like approach that person with those kind of questions? Like in the sense that you're still getting to know each other, so you don't want to come across as, you know what, it's like sort of like human resources questions kind of an interview. It's not just, you know, I'm getting to know you, I need to know this because this is important to me, kind of, and not to come across in the wrong way.
Okay, so if I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question correctly. This is a question about like a male-female relationship, right?
Yes.
Okay. Can I text you my phone number and then I'll answer that question to you separately, because I could go on forever about relationships and relationship goals, and that's like my thing, right? So I will answer that question like privately, because I'm gonna get completely off topic.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna send it in the chat right now, so just text me after. Okay, anybody else? Okay, well, I guess there are no questions. So before I hand it over to the announcements, next week, God willing, we're gonna be doing part 3. Next week, I haven't figured out the exact title of it yet. If I'm being perfectly honest, I'm not like prepared weeks and weeks in advance. But it's gonna be something along the lines of your first fight, right? So the first time that you and Christ not fall out of favor, but don't see eye to eye on something necessarily, or you disagree about something. So, and then next week we're going to get really into Peter's personality, right? Like his sass, and like, you know, he was not very politically correct a lot of the times, and that's going to become very obvious with next week's session. Okay, I'll hand it over to the announcements people.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for another great talk. So we will continue the series next week, like Sarah said. If anyone has any questions or suggestions, or if you're not on our mailing list, please email us at OnRoute@smsb.ca. And hopefully next time we're going to be back on Zoom. So I'll be sending a link on the email. You can also find it on Facebook, you can find it on Instagram, or you can find it through the church emails if you get the church emails. If not, just email us your email address and we'll make sure that you receive the church emails once a week. And have a great